The screech of tires, the shattering of glass. His mother was vibrant and full of life just moments ago. Then all of a sudden her life was gone, ripped away in a horrifying instant. One day she was humming as she made dinner, the next day she was gone. His world turned cold and fragile. Her son Charles was now the sole responsibility of his father, Thomas. Thomas was devastated, but tried to stay strong for Charles. Grief, though, was not easy on him. A year passed. Then came Julie. She was kind, patient, and warm in a way that seemed to try too hard. Charles never said much to her, never called her mom, or even by her name, Julie, half the time. He avoided her hugs, shrugged off her attempts to make his favorite pancakes, and flinched when she tried to brush the hair from his face like his real mother used to do. Julie didn't take it personally. Not at first. She had married Thomas not just because she loved him, but because she believed in healing, and in the possibility of mending broken families. Still, every time Charles turned away, it pierced her in places she didn't know existed. One rainy evening, Julie overheard Charles talking to his father in hushed tones in the hallway. The walls were thin in their small home. "She's not my mom," Charles said. "She didn't give birth to me. How can I call her that when she didn't even carry me in her belly? It's not real. She can't be my mother." Thomas replied gently. "She knows that, my son. But she still loves you like you were her own." Charles's response came like a dagger. "That's impossible. She didn't make me. She doesn't understand." Julie pressed her hand to her heart and stepped back from the door, eyes stinging. Later that night, Thomas found her in the kitchen, staring into a cold cup of tea. "He told me," he said softly, "that he doesn't believe you can love him because you didn't give birth to him." Julie's lips trembled. "I know," she whispered. "I understand why he feels that way. How could I possibly fill the void left by a woman who had nurtured him from the very beginning? How could I compete with a bond forged in blood?" Julie's heart ached every time Charles looked at her with distance in his eyes, like she were a stranger in a world that once had only one mother for him. She longed to bridge that gap, and wrap him in the love she knew could provide for him. Driven by a desperate, almost impossible desire to heal Charles's pain, Julie began researching. She scoured obscure texts, delved into ancient practices, searching for a way to bridge the unbridgeable gap. She stumbled upon unconventional methods, bizarre theories about adoptive mothers creating a pseudo-gestational experience. It was absurd, bordering on madness, yet a fragile seed of hope began to sprout within her. She found a clinic, a place shrouded in secrecy, that explored the boundaries of the human body. It was there, under the guidance of a peculiar but dedicated doctor, that Julie began her journey. The methods were strange, involving focused breathing exercises, specialized massage techniques, and a gradual, controlled stretching of her abdominal muscles. It was painful, both physically and emotionally, pushing her body to its absolute limit. But Julie persevered, fueled by her unwavering love for Charles. She visualized him constantly, picturing him safe and loved within her. She imagined the warmth, the closeness, the unbroken connection she so desperately craved to share. Slowly, painstakingly, her body began to respond. Her abdomen, once firm and flat, gained a remarkable elasticity. Julie practiced the ritual every morning at dawn. Sitting cross-legged, she breathed slow and deep, imagining her heart and belly stretching open like a blooming flower, widening slowly and gently. She breathed love into that space, and imagined Charles stepping inside, wrapped in light and warmth. Meanwhile, Charles watched Julie with a mixture of confusion and suspicion. He saw her dedication, the sacrifices she was making, but he couldn't comprehend the purpose behind it. Finally, the day arrived when Julie felt ready. She called Charles into the living room. "Charles," she began, her voice trembling slightly, "I know it's been hard for you to accept me. Understand why. I didn't carry you, I didn't give birth to you. But I love you, Charles, with all my heart. And I want to show you, in a way that maybe you can understand." She explained, carefully and gently, what she had been doing, the stretching, the preparation. She spoke of her desire to offer him the feeling of being nurtured, of being completely enveloped in love that only a womb could provide him. "Charles," she began, her voice tender, "I know it's hard for you to love me the way you loved your mother. She carried you inside her for 9 months. I didn't." Charles looked down at his hands, unsure. Julie smiled gently. "But I have been practicing. I've been learning how to open a space inside me. It is a place just for you, where you can feel safe and loved like you did before." She reached out her hands, palms open. "Would you like to try? Do you want to come inside the womb I created for you and feel what it's like to be carried and born again?" Charles hesitated, then nodded slowly. Together they closed their eyes. Julie guided him through the journey with her breath and presence. She allowed him inside her widened heart space. She wrapped him in the light of her motherly womb, whispering the songs she once sang as lullabies, and feeding him stories of hope and love. Inside this safe place, Charles felt a gentle transformation. The loneliness softened, replaced by a growing warmth. He wasn't alone and fragile in a cold world anymore. He was held and protected again by the soft lining of a mother's belly. Within the sacred sanctuary of Julie's womb, Charles felt like time seemed to slow, and the outside chaos dissolved. There was infinite warmth and gentle light. The amniotic fluid that cradled him felt like soft silk wrapping around his body. He felt cushioned with every movement he made. Her womb had warm hues of soft rose and gold, glowing with a subtle luminescence that pulsed with Julie's heartbeat. The air outside in the living world was so muted and cold. There was a profound stillness inside of Julie that Charles used to reminisce about in his dreams. Charles floated, weightless and free, drifting in the gentle currents created by Julie's slow, measured breaths. The warmth around him was absolute and evenly distributed. It felt like he was wrapped up in an intimate cocoon of safety and solace where no harm could penetrate through Julie's stomach. It was truly a sanctuary that massaged him with each contraction of the womb. Charles felt a profound peace. Charles found something he had spent so long pretending he didn't need: safety, acceptance, and the ache of not having a mother he loved. He hadn't always known how to love Julie. His heart had been crowded by memories of his mother's laughter, her scent, the sudden and terrible silence her death left behind. When Julie entered his life, she did so gently, but no matter how kind she was, Charles couldn't understand how to let her in. Not when she wasn't the one who had brought him into the world. But the softness of Julie's belly walls nurtured him in such a way that he felt the pain of those memories fade away in her presence now. Her belly walls were pliant and alive, but curved protectively around him, no matter how he moved. The sensation of being enveloped in her fluids felt like liquid velvet. Her fluids calmed his every thought and quieted any flicker of fear. It was a place where time paused, and only the purest calm and happiness existed. The past painful memories of his mother's death mattered no more to him while he was comforted by Julie's warm tummy. Julie, too, felt this extraordinary connection coursing between them, as real and vital as her own heartbeat. With every move or tiny kick from Charles, her soul reached out to Charles. She spoke to him in hushed tones. Her voice was so soft yet was able to travel through all the layers of flesh. She imagined his tiny fingers curling, as she realized the love and joy that only a mother knows while pregnant. Her body was now a sacred vessel. She breathed deeply, feeling Charles respond by moving gently as if to nestle closer to the source of his safety. Their bond was developing just as the clinic classes said it would. Julie, having never had a child, had not been able to experience the love between a mother and her child before. Julie was sadly unable to have children. This was a secret she had not yet disclosed to Charles' father yet. An insecurity that has left her feeling less than the woman she was. She understood the profound and unbreakable tie between a mother and child now. This experience felt timeless, and Julie did not want it to end. After what felt like both moments and eternity, Charles opened his eyes and smiled at Julie. Like he really smiled. It was the first time in a long time. Getting the closure Charles needed, he realized. I think I'm ready to be born now. Charles thought but did not speak this. The miraculous connection that Julie felt with Charles sent this message to Julie without the need for words. She just instinctually knew that Charles was ready to come back out into the world again. Julie signaled to Thomas that it was time and that Charles was ready to be born again. Julie lay upon a bed prepared with soft, earth-toned blankets and pillows. Her breathing was steady as her hand rested on her belly, where Charles was and where Charles had come to rest, and was now ready for the journey out. Thomas knelt beside Julie, with his hands cradling hers. His eyes filled with love, and he gently kissed his wife. He had watched Julie devote herself day by day to this loving practice of womb stretching. He knew how much it meant for her to bond deeply with Charles in this motherly way. He knew this rebirth was no ordinary moment. Julie's eyes fluttered closed, and her brow furrowed. She could feel Charles being ready in her spirit. She inhaled and felt the familiar sensation return. The pressure was here, the internal tide was coming. A contraction followed by a gentle release. Charles was becoming more ready by the second. Julie's jaw was clenching as sweat drenched the bedsheets. Thomas wiped away the drips of sweat from her forehead with a soft towel and kissed her once more. You can do this, Julie, just breathe. Thomas encouraged her. She gasped softly, tears forming. I can feel him, she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. He's scared, and so am I. Thomas pressed his forehead to hers. It's okay, I am right here with you through it all. Thomas grabbed her hand to hold as Julie squeezed it hard with all her might. Charles could feel her pain as Julie pushed him out with each contraction. Her pain was his pain. He felt the tightness and pressure from her squeezing. It felt like each contraction threatened to crush and liberate them both. It wasn't a smooth passage, nor was it very graceful. He felt the trembling walls around him contract and struggle. Her body felt like it was torn between holding him and letting him go. Another wave came. It was so strong it knocked her breathless. The feeling was a struggle of letting go and of opening her wombs, legs and heart, of releasing the part of herself that was her stepson, Charles. She imagined Charles curled deep within the red warm walls of her womb, trying to kick open the passage in which he would come out from. She had to open herself up again to let him go. But was Charles ready again, to be out of the softness that was her tummy? To be out into the real world that was colder, harsher, and full of sharp truths? Julie gritted her teeth, tears streaming as she pushed. She felt stretched, overwhelmed, and almost broken by the act of delivering this love into the open air. I can't, she whispered. It's too much. Thomas kissed her hand. You can. He's coming to you, Julie. With a sob, Julie gathered everything she had. She pushed with every hour spent holding space for a child who didn't know how to receive her love. And she pushed again with every emotional barrier she had built. Then another strong push for every scar from the moments Charles rejected her, from the quiet dinners and the averted gazes, was cracking, splitting, and disappearing with each breath and push she made. She knew after delivering Charles, that Charles would love her the way she wanted, just like a biological son would love his biological mother. Julie could not wait to experience that love. And then the pressure finally broke. Julie gasped, and a wave of emotion crashed through her, so intense it brought her shaking. Her arms lifted, instinctively reaching for Charles. And Thomas, with his hands trembling, picked up Charles, covered in Julie's fluids, and handed him to Julie to hold. Charles had stepped into her love for the first time, closing the distance he had between him and Julie. Julie reached for him, and Charles let her arms embrace him. They held one another tightly. Thomas came behind them, wrapping them both in his arms. He was the bridge. Charles lay there for a moment with eyes closed, before looking up at Julie. Her face was still flushed with exertion, but her eyes were filled with tears of joy. Charles buried his face in her neck. "Thank you," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. "Thank you for loving me." Charles then turned to his father and embraced him, holding them both tightly. In that moment, the broken pieces of their family began to mend. Charles finally understood that love wasn't defined by blood, but by sacrifice and dedication. The love of a mother was defined, not by blood, but by the willingness to go to extraordinary lengths for her child. Julie wasn't his birth mother, but she was, without a doubt, his mother in every way that truly mattered. The second womb, though unconventional, had birthed not just a renewed son, but a healed and whole family. Charles had been born again.